Hey, have you ever looked at a piece of sheet music and just wondered, how do those little black dots on a page turn into something that can make you feel, I don't know, totally pumped up, or really sad, or just joyful? Well, there's a secret, a kind of hidden language that composers use. And guess what? It's almost all Italian. So today, we're going to crack that code together. Right, so how does it work? The real magic is in these little Italian words that composers sprinkle all over the score. And you should think of them less like boring technical directions and more like, well, like instructions for giving the music its heartbeat, its soul, and its own unique voice. Now, if you've ever taken music lessons, you've probably seen a list that looks something like this. And let's be honest, it can look pretty intimidating, right? Like you're supposed to memorize a whole new dictionary. But here's the thing, the key isn't just memorizing. It's about really getting what these words are telling you to do. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it all down so it actually makes sense. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the music's pulse, the tempo terms. Then we'll get into its heart, all those expression terms. After that, we'll find its voice with the style terms. And finally, we'll see how you put it all together to make real music. Okay, let's start with the pulse. The best way to think about tempo is as the music's heartbeat. It's the basic, fundamental speed that everything else is built on top of. I mean, if you get the tempo right, you've already laid the perfect foundation for the whole piece. So let's start with a really friendly one, Tempo Comodo. This just means at a comfortable speed. What's cool about this is the composer is basically trusting you, the performer, to find a speed that just feels natural and not rushed. It's not about being super strict, it's about finding that sweet spot that lets the music really breathe. Next up is Alla Breve. You probably know this better as cut time. This one really changes the whole feel of the music. So instead of counting a steady 1, 2, 3, 4, you feel two big, broad beats in the bar. 1, 2. It's a simple shift, but it makes the music feel like it's confidently striding forward, you know? It gives it this great momentum. All right, now for some drama. Stringendo. This means you gradually get faster. It's such a classic way to build up tension and energy. Just think about a train picking up speed, or the music in a movie chase scene right before the big climax. That's the feeling of stringendo. And finally, for tempo, we have one of the most beautiful and expressive markings out there, rubato. This is where the composer gives you, the performer, permission to be flexible. You can subtly speed up and slow down, stretching the time to really emphasize a phrase. It makes for such a personal, emotional performance. And its literal meaning, well, it's fascinating. Get this. Tempo rubato literally translates to robbed time. Isn't that cool? The whole idea is that you rob a tiny bit of time from one note, and then you pay it back on another. It's this beautiful give and take that transforms a rigid, metronomic rhythm into something that sounds totally human and full of feeling. Okay, so we've set the pulse. The music has a heartbeat. Now it's time to give it an actual heart. This next set of terms is all about adding emotional color. They're the ones that tell us how we're supposed to feel when we hear the notes. Yeah, once you've got the speed sorted, it's all about emotion. Think of these expression terms as the composer's most direct line to your feelings. They're basically the adjectives in a musical story, telling you if the mood is happy, sad, passionate, or gentle. Let's take a beautiful one, affettuoso. This is asking the musician to play tenderly, with real affection. It's all about a warm, gentle touch. A perfect example? Imagine you're playing a sweet lullaby for someone you really care about. That's the feeling of affettuoso. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got appassionato. This means passionately. So if affettuoso is like a gentle whisper, appassionato is a big, fiery, heartfelt declaration. It demands intensity, raw emotion, and a really powerful performance. And then there's mesto. This one is simple. It just means sadly. When a composer puts mesto on the page, they're asking for a performance that's filled with sorrow, maybe even mourning. The music should just feel heavy, you know, really reflective. All right, so we've got speed, we've got feeling. The last piece of the puzzle is the music's voice, its personality, its character. These style terms tell us about the attack, the texture, basically the overall attitude the music should have. Okay, check this out. Let's compare two terms that are both about strength, but in totally different ways. You've got con brio and deciso. Con brio means with vigor. Think energetic, spirited, full of life. But deciso means decisively. That's more forceful, confident, like you're making a strong point. And then you get a word like misterioso. I love this one. It's all about atmosphere. The composer is telling you to create a feeling of suspense, of shadow, of wonder. You should play the notes like you're letting the listener in on a secret, drawing them into this really intriguing, mysterious world. Okay, so let's pull all this together because the real magic isn't in any one of these words. The magic happens when composers start combining them. They don't exist in a vacuum. They work together like a recipe to give you a super specific and detailed instruction for how to play. So the big takeaway here is that you can basically group all these terms into three main jobs. You've got tempo, which is the speed, that's the music's heartbeat. You have expression, which is the mood, that's its feeling. And you have style, which is the character, that's its voice. So just remember, heartbeat, feeling, and voice. Simple as that. And look, at the end of the day, these aren't just words you memorize for a music theory exam. They are the composer's personal instructions for how to tell a story with sound. And that's the difference, right? Understanding these terms is what separates a musician who just plays the right notes from a true artist who actually communicates a real feeling or idea. So there you have it. You've got the tools now. You know how to read between the lines, how to decode what the composer really wanted to say. You understand the secret language. So the only question left is, the next time you sit down to play, how are you going to use it to tell your musical story?